Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I stand before you to present an opportunity that will revolutionize your business and propel it in the future of technology. I am very thrilled to introduce you to the immense power of serverless computing, a game changing approach that will unleash your organization's full potential. Get ready to supercharge your digital transformation. I'm Raja from RCTECH Solutions. Before I dive into the concepts, before we talk about the underlying details, I would like to share the immense power of one of our customer story. This is a very prominent leader in the streaming business, Netflix. If you look at the Netflix, they are actually dealing with close to 200 million customers in a given year, and they are handling more than hundreds of millions of videos being uploaded and streamed on a regular basis. The volume of records is extremely high, and and the data is spanned across in almost all the regions, all the continents in the globe. Let's talk about the interesting stories, how they handle this level of business, how they handle the traffic when they receive requests. People uses multiple devices like laptop, PCs, MacBook, mobile application or mobile phones, and TVs or different devices. So when they open up the application of Netflix, they once they signed up, they immediately reach out to the Amazon Cognito, which they can authenticate the user. Then, based on the number of requests, it passes through the Amazon API gateway. This API gateway is acts like a load balancer. So, based on the user's location, it automatically divert the traffic into the nearest AWS cloud location based on the content delivery network. And this specific location is very important to choose for the traffic to minimize the latency. In order to improve the performance, that API gateway should know based on the IP address of the user and where to route that request or the traffic to. So once the API gateway goes back to that appropriate location, then the based on the request, AWS Lambda, which is a serverless computing model, which initiate that event. For example, if I want to watch a movie, so that is an event that triggers that specific API in AWS Lambda. Then that API, it has that service URL which routes to the AWS S3 bucket and making sure it gets the right key to authenticate that specific request to invoke that specific movie file which is stored in the Amazon S3 or DynamoDB. So once that specific request is authenticated, then the data file is being transferred back through Amazon Lambda and then give it back to the end user. So the most important factor is this AWS Lambda, which is a serverless computing. It scales out dynamically. It scales out based on the input request and based on the available user inputs. So that's basically the most important factor of the serverless computing. So when I'm actually leveraging the Amazon Lambda, I don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. And that's basically what we are going to talk about today. And based on this architecture, Netflix handling millions and millions of customers' requests on a daily basis without any interruption in the services. So let's get a detailed look into the serverless computing model. The serverless computing model consists of several factors, and in this video I'm going to talk about what is serverless computing and the serverless architecture. In the future video I'm going to talk about the key benefits, supercharge efficiency, Event driven architecture, cloud native by design, boost developer productivity, transforming the business productivity. What's the difference between a serverless versus the traditional architecture? And finally, I'm going to close the video by closing thoughts. Let's pay attention today about these two important topics. What is a serverless computing model and how the serverless architecture look like? Introduction about serverless computing, which is a paradigm shift. This shift of the serverless computing is transforming the way applications are built and empowering businesses with unparalleled scalability, efficiency, and productivity. Serverless computing represents a paradigm shift in application development, empowering developers to focus on writing code that directly addresses the business needs. It allows developers to break away from the traditional server-centric approach, leverage the cloud services to handle the infrastructure tasks. Let's talk about that in detail. What is serverless computing? The serverless computing is basically a model which you don't depend on the infrastructure, you focus on the application. Breaking free from server-centric approach. In traditional server-centric approaches, developers are responsible for provisioning, configuring, managing the servers to run the applications. With the serverless computing, they delegate the infrastructure management to cloud service providers. Functions as the unit of execution. Serverless computing revolves around the concept of functions as the fundamental unit of execution. Developers create small, discrete functions that perform specific tasks, such as processing a movie request through HTTP protocol or responding to an event trigger. It is an event-driven and stateless architecture. What is event-driven? When I use a Netflix application, when I want to watch a movie, when I moment I click that movie play button, it is an event. It triggers that event. Serverless architecture follows an event-driven model where functions are triggered by the event, which based on the actions the user has chosen. Functions execute in a stateless environment, meaning they don't maintain any persistent state between invocations. Granular scaling on cost optimization is one of the significant advantages of the serverless computing is its ability to scale automatically based on the workload. Functions are provisioned dynamically, scaling up or down in response to incoming requests, ensuring optimal resource utilization and cost efficiency. Leveraging managed services. Serverless computing takes full advantage of cloud service providers' managed services such as databases, storage, authentication, and messaging systems. Developers can easily integrate these services into their applications without the hassle of managing and maintaining them. Finally, it comes up with a very simplified deployment and management process. Serverless computing streamlines the deployment process by allowing the developers to package functions and their dependencies into a deployable units. So these are all the six fundamental units within a serverless computing. Let's talk about the serverless architecture going beyond the traditional model. Serverless architecture is certainly a revolution. The way we design and deploy applications provide numerous benefits over traditional approaches. Let's dwell into the core components of serverless architecture and explore how it goes beyond the constraints of traditional methods. First one is functions as a service, FaaS. Functions are the heart of serverless architecture. Like moment I click the button to play a movie or select the movie, these are the small little functions. We call that as a part of microservices. With FPaaS or FAAS, developers write individual functions that perform specific tasks triggered by the events or requests. Each function executes independently, enabling granular scaling and optimal resource utilization. Managed services. Serverless architecture embraces managed services provided by cloud service providers. These services handle tasks such as data storage, authentication, messaging, and many more. Developers can leverage these services effortlessly, reducing the need for infrastructure management and enhancing the productivity. Event-driven execution, as I stated earlier, serverless architecture follows an event-driven model. Functions are triggered by events such as the HTTP request, database changes, and many more, or even the scheduled events. This event-driven approach enables real-time responsiveness and dynamic execution based on user actions. Stateless execution. Serverless functions execute in a stateless environment. They don't maintain persistent state between invocations, making them highly scalable and allowing for parallel execution. Scalability and cost effectiveness or cost optimization. This architecture offers automatic scaling based on workload demands. Function scales up and down based on the number of incoming events or requests, ensuring efficient resource utilization. And finally, the simplified deployment model. Developers package functions and their dependencies into a deployable units. And this deployment is typically achieved through configuration of files or command line interfaces. These are all the 6 different items within the serverless architecture. This concludes the part 1 of the serverless computing. So let's talk more about that in detail in the upcoming videos. If you do have more questions about serverless computing, feel free to reach out to us at this number given here or email at contact us at rctech.org. If you like this video, please like the video, share with your friends. Please subscribe to the channel. Let us grow together. Thanks for watching and meet you in the next video.